pro tip for solar panels that sit on the ground when the wind whips up, and especially here in Quartzsite, Arizona, a lot of people think they need to pack up their solar panels and put them away, and you really don't need to do that. You can just lay them flat on the desert floor and they will do fine. I have two heavy metal framed 200 watt rich solar panels that it's pretty obvious they're not going to go anywhere when you lay them flat. But not so obvious, I have two Etiquette folding 100 watt solar panels. You know, it's mostly plastic and nylon, and I do the same with them. I put them flat on the ground, and we had someone here said they clocked with their weather station 68 mile/hour gusts, and they did not budge because they were lying flat. Now, all bets are off on wind gusts over 50 miles/hour, no matter what kind of solar panel that you have on the ground and how heavy it is. If you have it up, tilted, and there's surface area that the wind can catch, they're going to go bye-bye and maybe get ruined. So here's a good tip for you desert RVers. Here's a tip for those of you that love to boondock and you don't want to move. You want to stay for weeks at a time, but it's a giant pain in the ass when you have to break camp and take your rig someplace to replenish with water and to dump your tanks. Well, you know what? You don't have to do either one of those things, because you can, especially if you have a travel trailer and a pickup truck, you have most of what you need to avoid doing that. You get yourself on Amazon a 36-gallon tote that you can lay and fit in the back of your pickup truck. Buy yourself a macerator pump that fits onto the end of your sewer line. Get yourself a garden hose and mark it with black tape or something that it's only going to be used for sewage, and you can pump that gray and black water right out of your tank, right into the back of your pickup truck, and you can drive that pickup truck to a dump site and dump that stuff in minutes. You don't have to move your rig. What about water? Well, you know, they sell these big bladders that all the way up to like 40 gallons and plus, but they're pretty hard to manage. I tried one for a while, and you have to have a way to pump it out of the back of your truck into your fresh water. And I found an alternative that works way better, especially if you are in a place where you're boondocking, where you drive your truck into town frequently, like I do. I'm outside Quartzsite. I'm 2 miles from town, and I frequently come into the town, and every time I come in, I fill up my 6-gallon water container, and I manually pour it into my freshwater tank. And that makes a huge difference. It's easy to keep up with, and I don't ever have to move my rig. There's your tip. Okay, for those of you that use your batteries when you're boondocking and you have solar, you are faced sometimes with days where there's no sun, or there's hardly any sun, and you need to get charged into those batteries or you're going to run out of power. So a lot of people get a generator. But there are those of you that, I don't want a generator. I don't want something loud. I don't want to have to take it out and do the maintenance. I just don't want a generator. I get it. Here's an alternative. Both Victron and Rv'er make devices called a DC to DC charger. And it's made for charging your battery bank while you're driving. So the way it works is it hooks up either to your alternator or direct to your batteries, and a plug comes out the back of your truck right next to your 7-way adapter. And in my case, the DC to DC charger sits inside with my batteries, and it works great. There's a 30 amp and there's a 50 amp Victron version. I got the 30 amp, so while I'm driving, it uses the power and the energy in the truck to throw 30 amps into the battery bank every minute that I'm driving. Now, there's another way to skin this cat, though, is every once in a while, when I want to throw power into my battery bank at camp, I'll back my truck up to it, I'll plug it in, and I'll just start it and let it idle. And even at idle, it will throw 30 amps into the battery bank. I have a friend of mine that says, hey, if you do that at idle, you're using that much energy, you can overheat things, so you should put your hood up. I don't usually do that, but I definitely do it when he's around. Or he'll run out and he'll tell me to do it. Put your hood up, Rob. Anyway, and you know, it doesn't sound like a generator, it sounds like a truck running. And if it's a truck like mine, a 2018 F-150 EcoBoost, you can hardly hear it when you're standing next to it. So there's a secret tip. Here's an important tip for black tank usage, whether you're a full-timer or part-timer. The number one mistake that is made with black tanks is when people use the facilities to go number two, they don't use enough water. The way I get around that problem, and I've never had a problem with things getting gunked up or messed up, is I fill the bowl almost about 3/4 of the way with water before going. So I know that I have that gallon and a half that's gonna go when I flush. Now you may say, boy, Rob, that's using a lot of water when I'm boondocking. I like to conserve water. And I was like, conserving water is great, but it is a bad idea to conserve water for this part of your RV life. You want to be generous with the water when you put solids into your blank tank. Trust me. Here's an etiquette tip, especially when boondocking, but I also believe it applies to RV parks. And that is, you do not go up and knock on someone's door like you might with the residents. That's a big no-no, especially out boondocking. That knock on the door to a full-time RVer usually means trouble. It means it's law enforcement or someone telling them that they're doing something wrong or they can't be parked where they're parked. Don't do it. So what if I want to talk or meet someone? Well, you have a couple of choices. If you have their phone number, you can text them. If their door is open, you can get within a reasonable distance and call out. And if they don't answer, that means they don't want visitors. Or you can just wait until you see them outside. But do not knock on someone's door. That was a thing they did in that movie Nomadland that every full-timer that I know cringed when they saw that on screen, where someone just walked up to a van and knocked on it like it was a house. You don't do that. Pro tip. Here's a tip for camping in the desert. And in my case, it's Quartzsite, Arizona, but it could be any desert. Because you know how to get in and out during the day, do not think it will be easy to get home when it's dark. Trust me, no matter how good you are at directions or how great a sense of direction that you think you have, when the sun goes down, everything looks very different in the desert, and it is very difficult to navigate. There's a part of the desert that I've been camping in for 2 years now, and I know it. I feel like the back of my hand, but I still easily can get lost traveling very short distances when it's dark. So this is a definite pro tip. Another desert tip, and this one's a really important one and could save your life: do not follow GPS when driving in the desert. It will often give you a route and do it very confidently, and it could easily take you to the middle of nowhere. You could get stuck and stranded and die. Seriously, this has happened over and over again with Rv'ers trying to navigate in the desert with GPS. GPS is wonderful stuff, but stick to the main paved roads and don't pay attention to when it routes you through any kind of wilderness area. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Here's a great tip for when you're in quartzsite, and if you're here for any length of time, someone will suggest, hey, why don't we go to Mexico? And the closest Mexican town is Algodones, and it's right next to Yuma, and you can be door to door from your door in the LTVA and quartzsite to a door across the border in about 90 minutes, including drive time and stopping and everything. It's pretty damn close. So you get to this border town and understand that this entire town, the entire population, is utterly dependent on people that come over the border to spend money with them. And the town is filled with all kinds of vendors, from people that sell t-shirts to works of art, to people out trying to get you to come into their pharmacy or their dental office. You're going to be approached everywhere you go with people trying to convince you to buy something. This is how they make a living. This is their culture. This is what they do. Now, the tip is, if you don't want to buy what they're selling, say no thank you pleasantly. But here's the real tip. I've seen people do this. If you engage with them and take their time, like you look at things and you don't buy anything, or you feel like you want to socialize, that's the one that really gets to me. If you want to socialize with them and joke with them, tip them. Tip them. If you don't buy anything, if you take their time has value, right? They're making a living. Tip them. And if it's just a few minutes, $1 bill is just fine, and they'll be thrilled with it. But please do not take the time of these kind people without compensating them. Okay, I got to give a shout out to Patty's RV Park, their propane service. You know, I've tried all the propane services that I could find to fill my 20-pound tanks in town, and they're all okay. I've not had a bad experience in any one of them, and every once in a while someone will tell me that so-and-so is the cheapest in town, and that varies from week to week, but the price differentials are not enormous. They exist, but they're not enormous. But let me tell you about Patty's RV Park. What they do that is different from every other one is I pull up, I park, they open my tailgate, they take my tank out, they fill it, they put it back, they close my tailgate, and they come to the driver's side and they take my money and bring my change to me. Every other place, you are required to get out of your car, take your tank out, hand it to them, go someplace to pay, and then put your tank back in. Now, I'm not a lazy man. I don't mind doing that, but boy, it sure is an extra little service that Patty Patty's RV Park does every time, and it's convenient as heck. I could be, there's things that I can be doing on my phone. I can be editing this video. There are lots of things I could be doing while I'm waiting, and it's nice and it's convenient. So I got to give thumbs up, Patty's RV Park Propane. Another tip on solar systems, your boondocking solar systems, battery bank, solar panels, charge controller, inverter, totally necessary to be comfortable. My tip is don't install it yourself unless you absolutely 100% know exactly what you're doing. And if you're one of these guys that I do it because I go on a YouTube channel and they give me step-by-step instructions, by all means, go ahead and do it, but please have someone that knows what they're doing, preferably a licensed electrician. Look at what you did before you fire it up and use it. Because I have learned that messing with electricity in your rig can be very dangerous. I was under the mistaken impression that 12-volt power is pretty harmless, because I figured, well, 120 volt in your house is dangerous. 12 volts, nothing. It's harmless. Wrong, 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 wrong. Even something as innocuous seeming as a loose connection can cause a fire in your rig. It can destroy everything. So please, please, please have a professional do it, or if you must do it yourself, have a professional. Pay him to check it out and look at it and make sure that it's safe.